Welcome back to our chess story series, and today we're going to be looking at a short chess game, also known as a miniature, between two strong grandmasters by the name of Jorden van Foreest playing white and Wesley So playing black. This is a short game which is unusual for Wesley, who's usually one of the top players in the world, and usually he plays really well and doesn't get crushed like in 19 moves, which is what happened in this game. So unfortunately for him, he wasn't very nice with his pawns in this game, and that had a lot to do with the result and his loss. Okay, and we'll see how. We start off with the king's pawn opening, and Jorden says, "May I have all my pawn teeth over here?" Black says, "No, you may not." Jorden says, "What about if I eat your pawn? Maybe then?" Wesley says, "No, you may not. I got this." Jorden says, "What about I get rid of your knight, and then I get the pawn, and then I get my two front teeth? How about then?" "No, you may not. Because even if you do take my knight, there is a little trick here. You think you're taking my pawn, but actually, Wesley is planning to get his candy back. After he forks the knight and the pawn, the knight has to run away. We collect, and we just have the two bishops for no reason. And black is very happy with those bishops against the poor knights. For that reason, Jorden says, "Can I protect my pawn first? And then maybe I'll collect my extra ice cream. Maybe I'll get my extra pawn." And Wesley says, "No, no, 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 no. I have a trick waiting. The second you try to eat my free pawn, my queen will be out to punish you." And so after something like this, I don't think white is having a good time with the f2 pawn and the knight falling and collapsing. For that reason, Jorden isn't being greedy. He doesn't want pawns yet. He can always get them later. For now, he just follows some opening rules, does some development. He's not in a rush. As for Wesley, I think he got a little confused around here. He didn't know what to do against bishop g5. He didn't remember this move very much. For some reason or other, he played knight e7. That's a strange move because you're breaking the pin. You don't like the pin on your knight and queen, but is that worth breaking your pawns for? And that's what happened in this game. Another way to play this could have been h6. Probably nothing wrong with d6, right? The pin is a little scary and it's annoying, but it's not the end of the world. So for whatever reason, Wesley said, "You know what? You can take my knight. I don't mind. I don't need my queen here. It's okay. You can have it." And Jorden said, "Sure, why not? Let's eat it." And not only did we break your pawns, we also look at your king side and say, Where? Where are you going, king? Are you going there? Considering that I'm pinning this pawn too? You'll probably have to play c6, and good luck castling with the pawn on c6 like that. So you probably don't want to castle here. It's not clear how you're castling there. How are you staying in the middle is also an issue because the center is going to open up. And like we've seen in past videos, the king shouldn't be here when the center blows up with dynamite. So the king is like, maybe I should castle here after all. Let's take a look. We go on with d4. Jorden says, "If you take me, I'm ready. And after you take, I can always castle and get out of here." Are we in a hurry to take back this pawn? We could have taken it earlier. We could have taken it now. But why? Is it running away somewhere? Is it in a hurry? Is it going to run to the end? I doubt it. I don't think so. So we're in no hurry to collect d4, and we're in no hurry to attack their king. We can just get out some pieces and make fun of their pawns later and wonder why are they doubled and isolated? You know, having these guys are like having two runners running the same race and tripping into each other like, I want to go, I want to go, ow, 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 that hurt, that, why are you stepping on my shoes? And that's not smart at all, right? So usually these pawns are weak, not only because they can't run, but also because they can't help each other. How are the two double Isolanis, isolated pawns, helping each other? Like, these guys can help each other. I can always defend one with the other, but not those guys. Those guys are troublemakers. For that reason, Wesley tried to kick away the annoying bishop and castled, which is another risky choice. Because with your house like this, even for a grandmaster, that's a lot to get away with. You're getting away with a broken roof and broken pawns and no chimney knight to help h7. Who's even helping this king? And that's exactly how he got caught in this game. Okay, Jorden did everything right. Castle, got his pieces out. He can now collect the pawn and say, oh, I get this for free. I don't even have to give away anything. Usually you'd have to give away a pawn to get this type of position. But no, he gets it for free. At least the pawn comes out here making way for the bishop. But wait a second, is this pawn healthy? We have a name for it. It's called a backwards pawn. I like to call it semi-backwards because it's not really behind his friend like it used to be, but it can be backwards. For example, if it never goes up here, who's guarding it? His friends have already left. That means he's all alone behind where he should have been. Imagine there is a pawn on c7, then it's okay. But because the pawns left, they left him behind. He's like, wait for me, who's got helping me? Only the pieces. And a pawn is bad if it can't be guarded by a pawn. That's the definition of a bad pawn. If there are no friends that can help him, then he's all alone and hates being that way. All right. So before attacking, we say pawns are the soul of chess. I'll just make sure you don't run anywhere. I'll make sure that your other friends don't run anywhere. Your pawns are all stuck. And then we can start edging towards that side. Just slowly but surely leaning towards the king side. But that's coming soon. Wesley hates these pawns as much as anyone. I'm sure he was just dreaming of removing them, and he was dreaming of trading them off, getting something like this, sticking the bishop here and saying, that's okay, I got a new pawn. What? What's the problem? What? I replaced the rook. What's going on? And so that's what he's dreaming of, but it never really happened. Because Jorden doesn't care much for trading. He says, if you'd like to trade, bring my pieces in. Help me out. Bring my knight in so he can checkmate you. You want to remove that pawn? Help me out. Trade on my terms. In the same time, can I get my rooks connected, please? Can I get my rooks firing? Can you get your rooks firing? No. Can I? Yes. And that's why rook connection matters, because very soon, when the center opens up, I can fire, but you cannot. Okay? The king is probably scared. There are trucks looking his way, tanks figuring out how to get to him. So he's trying to hide, but there is nowhere to hide. The roof is broken. The house is in ruins. Where are you gonna hide with the G pawn gone? Sometimes if this pawn's gone, you can hide here. But with this pawn gone, God help this poor king. He's not getting out alive. So we bring out the last rook, and the rook starts firing on the weakness on our semi-backwards pawn and starts getting ready for a little rook march to the king. Okay, the bishop runs away because he didn't know what to do. Maybe he's thinking about kicking away the knight. Maybe he didn't like the bishop here because, you know, this knight can jump to b3, say hi to the bishop. Bishop runs away, we collect the pawn. And maybe he's thinking about getting the bishop here and then firing with the queen and the bishop, but that will never happen. Instead, we get into place, get the knights running, and also say hi to the pawn. By attacking the weaknesses, we get closer to the king. That's called, in a way, a double attack, okay? Because we're attacking the targets here and attacking the target there. Now, Wesley chose to take, which doesn't really help him, but not a lot of things help him in general. Probably he should have played something like f4 earlier. Probably he had to try and hide with the pawn here and the knight there, for example, knight g6, but it wasn't meant to be. At least this way, he could try and guard the king, put a queen there, and pretend it's all fine. But it didn't happen here. In the actual game, the bishop ran away and our knights starting to come closer. Both our knights start to come closer. knight's heading to f6, g5, queen's heading to h6, and the king is not long for this world. Maybe you're wondering, isn't that a fork? Can't we just fork the bishop and the knight and just win everything? But first of all, isn't that a pin? You're always going to be pinned. Even if I move my queen, you're still pinned by the rook. So you're never really forking me. And if you're not forking me, then okay, I'll just get my guys in there and not worry about your pawn, which is weak all the time. I can probably pick it off now, but why? It's weak. I care less about this pawn than this guy over here. And that's where Jorden came up with the move of the game, very classy, G4. Usually, beginners are scared to play these moves because it's like, you're opening the king! And just look at Wesley. What happened to Wesley when he opened his king like that? So a lot of people are scared, and rightly so. But here it's perfectly fine, perfectly safe. Okay, the king is going to be well guarded. He can always come to h1, and the knight has to run away. When the knight runs, who's stopping my queen? Who's stopping my invaders? So we get rid of the annoying knight because they have no way to get my king. After the knight runs away, we just invade. We simply invade. The queen's coming in. Hello, pawn. Hello, knight, who's doing absolutely nothing. This is not a chimney knight. It's a useless knight. Your pawns are still broken and isolated. Your knight is no replacement for the roof. We got knight f6 coming, knight g5 coming, everything coming. And so he didn't have much choice at this point. There's not much he can do. Wesley decided to grab a pawn and try to run away with it and suffer with at least one ice cream to make him feel better, but it's not going to help. Of course, his idea is to help with the bishop, with bishop f5 to cover mate at least, but it's not going to last for long. The first knight comes in and says, hello, can I mate you? The bishop says, no, you may not. And then the second knight comes in for full effect. And unfortunately for Wesley, the bishop can't stick around forever. The queen happens to be on the same line as my tanks who are firing. And we have all sorts of forks on f7, because the pawn was alone. He was isolated to begin with. You try to kick me away? Oh, great. Even better. Right? I could also take the bishop and mate you next turn. That works too. Right? Too many threats to deal with because all of White's pieces are in the party. All of them are participating, and they're close by too. And all these broken pawns could never help the king. He tried to get rid of the broken pawns, but it turned out that type of pawn was actually helping the king, covering squares. So when you get rid of them, they're broken, but they're also bricks. And if you get rid of your bricks, that's how you get mated in the end. And so the game finished with knight takes d6. Wesley resigned and said, I'll never double my pawns again.